Professor Girisdh Jha. Uh, Professor Girisdh Jha is chairman at CSTT and former dean SSIS JNU, chairman on deputation from JNU, Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, MOE, Government of India, Professor of Computational Linguistics, School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies, concurrent faculty, School of Engineering JNU, concurrent faculty, Center for Linguistics, SLL and CS JNU, concurrent faculty, Special Center for E-Learning, SCEL JNU. His research interests include Indian languages corpora and standards, Sanskrit and Hindi linguistics, science and technology in Sanskrit texts, computational lexicography, machine translation, e-learning, web-based technologies, RDBM, BMS techniques, software design, and localizations.
I'm so delighted to be here in this very important event, jointly organized by Institute of Science and Spirituality, the research and development wing of the ISKCON in Delhi, and ICPR and School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies, JNU. I'm currently actually on deputation from this department to the Government of India. I joined as the Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology as the chairman, as the 24th chairman. First chairman was Dr. D.S. Kothari. And the role is to develop scientific and technical terminology in every language of India and every subject that we teach at higher education level. So I'm particularly thankful to the organizers for inviting me, and I see eminent speakers lined up for a day-long session on a very important aspect, Sankhya Darshanam, and that too in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Philosophy in India has been very diverse, as the Indian culture itself, and in this diversity we have to find a way out. When I say we have to find a way out, it's very important. Most of the schools are engaged in discussion. Most of the schools are engaged in discussing the standpoint that they start a discussion from, argument from, the distinction of their ontological, epistemological, nuances from the other competing schools, and that discussion goes on and on. And I am particularly from the applied side of sciences, and I do believe that Indian tradition has the origins of most of the so-called wonders of sciences that the West has produced, and the origin has been in India, and therefore we need to look at our systems more closely. And in looking at the systems more closely, we should also identify points of convergence between the modern sciences, so-called modern sciences, and our positions in different aspects of science and technology. There are many areas which call for application. For example, Vedanta is one such area, and we have been doing seminars with University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth every 2 years. And one of the seminars every 2 years, we alternate between UMass, Dartmouth, and JNU. We do International Vedanta Congresses. We've done about 23 or 25 conferences. And 19 onwards, we have had publications done by DK Print World. So you can look at and most of the topics are science and technology in Vedanta. And all the competing schools, whether the orthodox or the heterodox, are rooted in the objective thinking that India excelled in a certain point of time. And therefore, my plea to all the scientists would be to look at it a little bit more closely. So I thank also the dean of the school and Professor Pandey for contacting me 2 days ago. I was in Hyderabad, somewhere, and I said yes, and then I said I'll just briefly join. And I also thank the coordinator of the program, Shri Praveen Kumarji, Director ISS. I was invited to see the Akshay Patra in Bangalore. I was there. I was very impressed by the Akshay Patra scheme, and then we had your boss coming over here and introducing Akshay Patra And in my ministry, some of my officers are very closely connected to ISKCON. So I'm very thankful to you for inviting me, and the seminar theme is very apt, as I said, and I see very interesting topics. I wish I had time for the whole day to present myself here. Sankhya ontology and epistemology. I look at from the AI perspective, how you can actually apply these things, and AI today actually needs the inputs from our Indian philosophical systems. And the topics like causality and perception, is very important, both in AI. I'll tell you how is perception important, how we perceive things, how we perceive from the good from the bad, how we distinguish good from the bad, real from the fake. That's a very important consideration in AI today. Can we identify fake? Can we identify the ideologies that come up with the context? For example, there's a paragraph extolling Prime Minister Modi, his tenure, and does the paragraph actually mean what it says, or it is suggesting something else? So all of those things have to be found out. And I remember 2 years ago, maybe a little earlier, I was doing a course in computational linguistics at the MPhil level, and I had a lot of students from Syria joining my course, and they were engaged in a topic where they can identify the government press from the rebel, the content coming from two different directions, the government media and the other media. How can a machine detect automatically that this is from government media or the other media? So detecting, real from the fake would be certainly a challenge. And there are many more issues that could be addressed. So I'm very happy to see the topic causality, perception, Sankhya system, and also the dialogue between Sankhya and modern science. I'm sure your institute is the very well placed institute in Delhi, and you have scholars coming from all over the world, who believe in ISKCON and other competing philosophies, and you can have a dialogue between these interested scientists. And this is a new emerging trend. I'm a member of the Cognitive Science Research Initiative (CSRI) in DST, and I also have friends and collaborators in DBT and other areas. They're telling me that the new trend is that whenever there is a proposal on sciences, they require that you must have a collaboration from the social sciences, humanities, and other areas, so that the proposal becomes quite strong, and funding would be perhaps guaranteed if you have good collaborators. I remember when I was visiting professor at UMass Dartmouth, 2009 to 12, 3 years. I would go there in summers to do some research on Ayurveda, and we were working on a text, Rasayan Sar, which is a text from Banaras area, compiled by some Vaidya, and I translated a chapter, Dhatu Maran Shodhana Prakaranam, into English, and 3 PhD students were working on to find the nanoparticles, the material which can be used possibly in medicine, so the faster dissolving material with lesser residue. It's called bioenhancing capabilities of the Bhasma technology. So there's a lot of potential if you form a group, and group would be from, as I say, a group of for example, a science scholar, science professor from for example from IIT Delhi, which is just next door from JNU, and or AIMS, which is also next door from JNU, and 2 of their students, and then a Sanskrit professor, of course from our school, and 2 of their students, and an industry partner. So roughly 5 or 6 people, and you take up a text, for example, Rasayan Sar, and just bet on it. If something good comes out of it, good, you have an IPR. If it doesn't, your money is wasted. So you should be prepared to waste money, and something will come out. There are thousands of texts actually. Let me tell you, even in the my area, my favorite area is the phonetics and the Shiksha Shastra. More than 100 texts are still waiting to be digitized and read, edited and translated. 2 of my students, translated Atreya Shiksha. Unfortunately, the text of Atreya Shiksha, we got it from Hamburg Library, Germany, by paying 1,300 euros to them. JNU paid 1,300 euros to acquire pictures of our own text, but good condition. In India, we did not get good condition. Similarly, Charaniya Shiksha. Now, Atri Shiksha is published in English translation by J.K. Printwell. You can see this, very good translation. Charaniya Shiksha. Again, we did not find the text in India. We found it in Lahore Library. We got pictures from there. The student paid himself. JNU did not pay at that time. I mean, that is now edited. So there are more than 100 texts, and there's one organization I know, Maharshi University of Management. I was their guest for 10 days, editing a volume there, and I almost fell sick eating vegetarian food for 10 days. My tila. Yeah. So they have Peter Freund. Peter Freund is a person who is so passionate about Shiksha Granthas, and he has typed all of these texts in his idiosyncratic fonts on the website. And so a lot of passionate people around the world are looking at the original texts and sources of Indian systems. Recently, some people, including myself and Himanshu Pota, we organized a digital Sanskrit corpus a brainstorming session online, and we are going big on it actually to make sure that all the Sanskrit texts are in one place, digitized, cross-linked, reference, etc., etc. There's a lot that is happening and can happen potentially across the globe, and I'm very happy to see that things are taking some shape, especially in our center. And finally, I see a topic: societal impact of Bhagavatam Sankhya. So I would like to know a little more about it, and I would love to join online. And whenever there is a presentation, I'll see. But let me tell you, there was a discussion. There is a discussion actually on YouTube, and I'm particularly reminded of that discussion in the light of Vaimanika Shastra. So there is a committee made by American enthusiasts, I would call them, keeping aeronautical engineers and spacecraft people and Vaimanik Shastra experts from India and Sanskritists, and they are exploring how the Vimanas flew actually in ancient India, and the discussion is very interesting. So one of the scientists is saying that his grandfather created a submarine during the Second World War. That submarine would suck the objects coming up from the front and destroy. They will not fire a torpedo to destroy the object from a distance, but they will allow the object to come inside and will suck it and then destroy inside. And more interestingly, the person says he got the idea from Bhagavad Gita. You would be surprised how he gets the idea from Bhagavad Gita. And when the other person asks him a question, how do you get the idea from Bhagavad Gita? He says, when Indians look at their text, they find dharma, they find God. When we look at the text, we find Vigyan in them. So West looks at the text, they find Vigyan. Panini was made into a Cogsci person, and AI comes out of it. And I've given several talks where Panini is proven to be the originator of all these things. And when we look at our text, we look at from a certain perspective. So it's important to have multiple perspectives on text, and ISS is the best platform. Recently, I gave a talk at the Auroville Center, and there also I gave him the same thing, because see, in India we are very, the Sanskrit universities, there are 18 Sanskrit universities, more than 150 departments, but they fight shy of including the international scholars, etc., into their fold so that discussions can happen. But your organization has no such constraint. You can certainly, when I was director of international collaboration of JNU, I made sure most of the agreements that we have from JNU to other institutes, they included Sanskrit. And many of our students have now traveled to other countries in exchange. And they're coming back with a lot of exposure. So it's important to open up actually, and the important thing is to have texts in good condition for research. Now how much time do I have, sir? How much time do I have?
Yeah, I think so. 5 minutes.
5 minutes more. Okay. So now I'm coming to the topic which, so there's huge possibility for realizing the Sankhya and other philosophical systems, ontologies for application in areas like AI. So the developments in AI Cogsci have reached a level where their exploitation for public good as well as societal destabilization have been happening. Now AI has been progressing in two different ways, the good and the bad, and we have to really be very careful that the bad aspects are minimized to the minimum and with inputs from the philosophy. So we have to bootstrap sciences and spirituality to areas like AI to make sure that things progress in a good direction. For example, what we can do, for example, the terms, the defining terms in AI, like cognition, consciousness, intelligence, knowledge, what is human, what is machine, and what is sentiment, what are ethics, all these things can be redefined. See, the definition for knowledge and intelligence, two very key terms in AI, there are more than 250 definitions. So we can look into our systems and define them. For example, if you look into the means of knowledge, and whether which school accepts means of knowledge, which school accepts what means of knowledge and what not. For example, Charvaka will accept none, only Pratyaksha, or not even Pratyaksha. And whether Vedanta accepts Shabda or not, and whether grammarians accept the Pratyaksha or not. And Pratyaksha everybody accepts, but other things they are questionable. So all these things are need to be explored more closely, and we need to look at the defining terms in artificial intelligence and look at more closely in redefining them with inputs from philosophy. Why that will be important? Because then the misuse of AI will be perhaps minimized if you define these basic terms. For example, the true and false knowledge, we often talk about pramana prama. Now, true knowledge, perfect or perfectly all right, what is proven, right? Aprama is, I call the aprama, the failure of machine to perform correctly. This could be a systematic bug which happened at the level of coding, which even compiler will notice the syntactic errors, but logical errors compilers will not look into. So some error persisted and continued to cause the bugs. And how can those be minimized at the level of coding? And if they got unnoticed, the program detects itself the logical flaws and recodes, what you call bio programs, and so those things could be done. So I would say that if you correctly define what is aprama in the modern sense of implementation, then we can get good results of it. One more example. Now, correctly identifying a representable string. Now, not in AI, the central problem is that machines have to identify the language strings correctly, right? Now, the language string can have the knowledge and the non-knowledge, both, right? If I say the Shasha for example, that is a good string, but it's a non-knowledge, colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Chomsky, an example, famous example. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. A very perfectly constructed English string, but means nothing, right? So how can machine, before representing knowledge, identify whether the string actually means something good, something real in this world? So not all strings should be represented. See, in Navya we can represent our string artificially, symbolically, unambiguously. That is the basic goal in AI. Now we have to first identify whether the string actually is okay. Dogs can't laugh, right? Stones can't speak. And more often, the ideology that coming up in media, whether the ideology is coming up from the string is good for society or not. We go one level higher. So string is perfectly correct. Knowledge is also okay. But whether knowledge is good for society or not. We go one step further. So that kind of discrimination facility or capacity has to be there in AI, and we can certainly do that by bootstrapping philosophical ideas. Now, how do we actually model Sankhya? I have some little take on it. See, while devices, we have been developing devices, we have been developing LLMs, very smart LLMs, and when LLMs go crazy, they start churning out things which are absolutely nonsensical. Recently, the DeepMind went crazy, that, and DeepMind gave answers which were absolutely unacceptable. And sometimes the answers of the LLMs which come out can be very dangerous to society, right? For example, kids are asking questions to the television, and television responding, and if the television set which is backed by LLM gets crazy, the kids will be offered a content which is not appropriate for them, right? The LLMs can go crazy, and then the answers will be completely chaotic in society. So what idea is that we need to basically look at the Purusha and Prakriti kind of system. Purusha is more abstract, more I would say creatively poised, but and the Prakriti, I call Prakriti as the the instances. For example, a problem which currently I'm consulting Google for something very interesting. The different kinds of Hindi that are there, say the Eastern Hindi, Western Hindi, and etc. How do we translate those nuanced usages to the standard, and from standard to the other language? If Google is able to translate English to Hindi, for example, then if you get some kind of Hindi, like Awadhi Hindi, Bhojpuri Hindi, Maithili Hindi, or Haryanvi Hindi, then those have to be translated first to standard Hindi, then to English. So something like that, I was saying that if there are many instances of reality, so those instances are nuanced, and for handling them by machine, for any smart LLM, LLM cannot be infinitely smart. There's a limit to smartness. So those instances could be translated to something more templatic, and from there the real translation and communication to the wider world will happen. So therefore, I would say that we can look at the Purusha Prakriti in a little bit more abstract form. Prakriti as the innumerable instances of reality, as I perceive it, from the AI perspective. For example, keyboard is a reality, instance of reality. I press the keyboard, it gets mapped to the key card, the algorithm, and then something happens on the screen, right? So I call keyboard as an instance, and actually what is listening to it is the Purusha. So, and that kind of for example, grammars are instances of Purushas, I would say. The Panini grammar, for example, most of the grammars can be dissolved into Panini grammar. Grammar A, B, and C, and D for language A, B, and C, and D can be dissolved, can map to the Paninian template. And if that templating happens, then things will be simpler. Things will be more controlled. And AI today needs to be controlled. Otherwise it's going to go crazy, haywire in different directions. Now, as I said initially, I'll basically conclude with this, that we have lost valuable time, in discussing, ad absurdum on things which are of consequence, some consequence, but not of the ultimate consequence today. We are actually, West is progressing faster in developing things. We are progressing faster in arguing things, right? And we need to basically listen to each other more closely and form a team. And ISS can do a great job in that, because you have no constraints, typical governmental constraints that we have in India. And we need to actually understand what are our development needs in India today, and how can science and technology address those needs in a way which is useful to society. And that is the bottom line. The development needs are there. We have the solution to address those needs, but solutions should be relevant to the society. That is the ultimate, And I give an example always that my son was watching a television program, a translation of Pogo serial in Hindi. Pogo is perhaps a Japanese serial. And then when I was working on the laptop and he was watching the serial, and in the serial there were 3 kids discussing with each other. And one kid is telling the other kid, कि मेरा ये काम कर दो, मैं तुम्हें इनाम दूंगा. तीसरे ने पूछा क्या इनाम दोगे? इसकी वाइफ इनाम में दूंगा. Now, gifting someone's wife as a prize to someone else is not Indian culture. But the translator has, unmindfully translated the content, as was happened. They should have adapted that. So that activity is not socially responsible. So therefore, AI has to be socially responsible in a very sensitive culture, in a very diverse culture, and a very intelligent culture of India. So I'll end there, and I once again thank you, everyone, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me here. Thank you so much.